I'm Lucy Steinert, and I'm here today with Karen Carswell, and we're talking about socially responsible business.
We both work in management consulting, and I've been working with businesses that are more and more increasingly making their strategy towards a socially responsible business.
And I also am a professor at Boston University, and I teach this stuff there. We wanted to talk to you today about developing social responsibility, business policy, and strategy. We have 90 minutes with you in person when you're here, but in order to make the best use of that time, we wanted to talk a little bit about what we're going to be discussing and how we will go through it with you. And we want to talk a little bit about the reading material we're going to give you ahead of time so that we can have a really active discussion.
Yeah, we'll also post about 4 articles for you to read. So go ahead, and we won't probably go in depth with all of those articles that we post, but it's a good idea to kind of get familiar with that content.
The idea is that we'll be talking about businesses that are here, and we want you all to have a common background on them because, as we all know, we come from lots of different places, and it's easier if we know a single story that we can build on and talk about our experiences where we come from. So what we're going to cover, we want to talk about citizenship, consumer, why socially responsible businesses are important, and also how the view of socially responsible business has changed over the past 20 years or so.
We'll talk about strategy and policy and how one fuels the other, but also the important role of leadership.
So it's not only the leadership from the top that's important, but it's also how do you manage a socially responsible business on a day-to-day basis? How do you think about the incremental decisions that you make every day and how they influence the socially responsible aspects of business as you're running the business? And how to avoid the pitfalls that we've seen companies fall into repeatedly.
And lastly, we'll look at the role of social media and marketing and basically the daily maintenance and responsibilities of everyone involved in the organization in order not only to enter new market shares, but also hire the individuals that you want to work in your company.
So in order to have a discussion that all of us are involved with, it's helpful if you can think about what you care about as an individual, how you think about what's really important to protect.
So we'd like you to think about these questions. First, are citizenship and consumerism separate? Second, what do you care about the most? We've read your profiles and we know you deeply care about organizations. Maybe you've started an environmental education nonprofit. Some of you want to work for NGOs. So kind of think about those those personal questions that we're asking you.
So what's important to you when you pick a company to work for? Are you willing to work for a multinational that struggles with their environmental reputation? Or is that something that's absolutely unacceptable to you? You could think that by going there and working there, you might be able to influence their practices going forward. So we want to talk about these socially responsible issues with a 360-degree view. How do these things work on a day-to-day basis? How do you live with your values in a corporate setting? And what are the problems that you want to solve?
So can you take what you care about and turn it into a business, or again, work for a company that maybe hasn't had the strategy or hasn't thought about those socially responsible practices? Can you shapeshift those ideologies when you work there as an employee? Or if you want to start your own business, can you make money from what you care about protecting?
So you have to put this in the model of what is business. So let's talk about that. We will talk about what's the main purpose of a business and how do you balance things like people and environmental issues when you're running a business and need to make money.
Can you put people above profits? What is your fiduciary responsibility as a business? And can you do what they call the triple bottom line: people, profits, and sustainability?
And when you think about that, what are your legal obligations? You're running a business. You have an obligation to earn money. You have an obligation to pay taxes. At the same time, what is your obligation and how do you measure it for protecting other things? So how do you manage the stakeholders that are involved in your business? It's not just the shareholders, it's the employees, it's the people in the community, it's the people that buy your products. Are they safe? And so how do you think about that and how do you make those trade-offs? What do you measure to do it?
Lastly, these large companies that have been in business for a really long time, do they now have an obligation to make the world a better place? We're going to talk about a couple of companies, and we think we would like you to actually look these up and do a little bit of research. The first is Coca-Cola. We want you to, kind of explore the net and find out kind of what kind of questions have been asked of Coca-Cola's practices in the environment with their employees. The second,
and with their use of water. And one of the things that's sort of complex about Coca-Cola, which is worth looking into, is that Coca-Cola is actually a family of companies. There's Big Coke that makes the syrup that goes into the drinks, and there are bottlers that put the drink in the bottle or distribute the syrup to companies like McDonald's. How do we think about where the social responsibility sits? Is it in Big Coke or is it in the bottling companies or is it in the entirety? That's very useful to think about when you're looking at Coca-Cola. We are also going to ask you to look at Nestle, which is a global company, which has come under extreme criticism for a variety of socially irresponsible decisions. They range from giving people baby formula, people who don't have the money to buy it, people who don't have the ability to sterilize the water they mix with the formula powder, and what the human impact of that is. They've also come under criticism for their use of water in Northern California, which is an area prone to drought. So how do we think about those things? And how do we set that against their ESG rating or their environment, social, and government rating? And we'll show you how to get those ratings in the material that we give you.
Yeah, we look forward to talking with you about socially responsible businesses, their best practices, what we can read about them in the news. We invite you to, again, answer the reflective questions that we asked in this little video and come prepared to look at a few case studies. Again, do your own research on Nestle and Coca-Cola, and we look forward to seeing you soon.
Yeah, the more opinions you come with, the more active the discussion will be and the more fun we'll have. Looking forward to it. Until then.